Welcome to the .NET interview community. I'm your host Nirbhay Chauhan, a developer, author, and a trainer passionate about leveling up the skills. Whether you are gearing up for an interview or simply want to deepen your understanding of the .NET technologies, you have come to the right place. I have authored several interview preparation books which are available on Amazon, and the links of these books are given below in the description box. So let's dive into today's question and see how we can tackle it together. So friends, our today's question is explain the constructor and its type in C Sharp. As we all are aware that the constructor is a very essential part of the C Sharp or any programming language where the object initialization is required. So let's understand how many types of constructors are there and what are the purpose of the different types of constructor and uses why we require them, and let's dig deeper into the constructor and understand our basic concepts. So the constructor is a special method within a class that is automatically called when an object or an instance of that class is created. So whenever we type a new and then we try to create an object of that class, new class object, that time a constructor is automatically called. The constructor have the same name as the class itself have and do not have a return type that differentiate it from the functions within the constructor. Its primary purpose of the constructor is to instantiate the object, fields, variables, and perform any other setup required before the object can be used. So, for an example, let's say an object is have to be initialized for a class and it must have some default values or some properties, or a read only field is there and that read only field need to be initialized. So these all types of works or a prerequisite kind of gathering is done within the constructor. Let's see how many types of constructors are there and understand them in deep one by one. So here are the breakdown on the constructor types. Let's see first the default constructor. The default constructor is like the parameterless constructor. The parenthesis of the constructor will be empty. A default constructor is a constructor that takes no argument or parameter. If you don't explicitly define any constructor in your class, the C# compiler will automatically add a default constructor to that class. This compiler generated default constructor initialize all the member variable to their default values. So this is the use of the default constructor. If you define any constructor in your class, the compiler will not automatically provide a default constructor. So if suppose for any reason if you have provided a parameterized constructor in your class, then the default constructor will not be added by the compiler automatically during the compile time. So that's the scenario. Now the next is parameterized constructor. The parameterized constructor accept one or more arguments, and then the signature there will be more number of arguments from one to many, and that will specify or initialize the object field with the given values from these parameters. So that the parameterized constructor when you have to initialize by taking the input from the user when the user is trying to initialize, or the person who is trying to initialize your object, he will be providing some input for that object or class object. So that's the parameterized constructor. The next is an important one, that is the copy constructor. A copy constructor, it creates a new object as a copy of an existing object. it makes an object of the same class as an argument. And this is important to avoid shallow copies, where only reference of the object or copied and not the object themselves, when you truly need an independent copy. So what exactly this does is, let's say I have a class, for example car, and I have an object of a car A, and I need to copy this car object A into a new car object B. So when we use the copy constructor, the A car field or whatever the members it is having, the A car object is holding, that same copy created and that will be having a B. So memory there will be two references A, and both will be holding their individuals of that object. So identical copies are created, and that's meant by the shallow copy and the deep copy. So this copy constructor will be going to create a deep copy instead of going for a shallow copy. The next one is static constructor. A static constructor is used to initialize the static members of a class. It is called only once the first time the class is accessed, an instance of a class is created. The static constructor cannot be parameterized and have no access modifier. They are implicitly private. So these are the characteristics and features of the static constructor, that it will be only used for initializing the static members, and it will be called only once for when the class is loaded into the memory. So for an example, let's say I have a class car, and at the first time I am going to create an instance of a class car. So at that time a default constructor will be called and static constructor will be called. Now when one object is initialized, then if the second object is going to be initialized, at that time only the default constructor will be called, not the static constructor will be called. So that's the uses of the static constructor, that it will be called only at one time. The last one is the private constructor. A private constructor prevents the direct instantiation of a class outside the class. It is often used in a situation where you want to control the object creation, such as singleton pattern, where only one instance of class is allowed. Or we can use the private constructor in case of factory patterns as well. So these are the types of the constructor that we have learned in deep about all of them. Now let's answer this simple question: which type of constructor is used in singleton pattern? So friends, there you have it. I hope you have gained some valuable insight from this video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to stay updated on our latest content. And if you have any questions or want to discuss further, feel free to leave a comment below. Plus, let's connect. Follow me on Medium and LinkedIn for exclusive content. The link is given below in the description box. See you in the next video.